Welcome back everyone, Ryan Monetize here, and in today's video we are going over the price of Bitcoin. I know it's been a minute, but obviously the price action has been insane. I have not covered the massive drop in Bitcoin that we saw, from like mid 90s down to what, $73,000. So we're going to be getting into it today, and I'm going to be going over what I'm anticipating to happen next. So if you remember November of last year, I sold off a good chunk of Bitcoin at about $98,000. I sold it off in increments, but $98,000 was my average cost. And after that, Bitcoin went up to 107. I could have easily FOMO'd back in, but that was not the case, okay? So what I anticipated to happen, happened. It took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but it happened. What I have been screaming from the rooftop for the past 4 to 5 months is that Bitcoin needed to fill a gap. Okay, you can apply this to anything that you're trying to trade, any stock, right? It's a very, very simple concept. It's called a gap fill. What I was explaining in the past was there was this huge point of resistance here when Bitcoin was about $73,000. Okay, it broke through there and then was going to turn over as support. What we saw was once Bitcoin broke above that level of resistance, it way too quickly went from $73,000 up to the $90,000 range, right? This right here. This is one, unsustainable, and two, must be revisited because what you're looking for is this, right? This is a huge going to be support that plays out over time on Bitcoin, right? From like over here to the $60,000 to the $73,000 range. So what I've been saying is that Bitcoin needed to fill a gap. What did Bitcoin eventually do? Bitcoin filled that gap, as you can see, a wick down here to pretty much the swing high over here. So let me just kind of give you like actual dollar amounts. And for example, when I'm placing buy orders, I am not placing them exactly what the top over here was. So let's see here. The top of this candle here was 73,835. What this low wicked down to over here was 74,420. And so the reason why I would not place a buy order exactly right there, it's very simple, right? That's what everyone else is doing. So you don't want to be too greedy in these situations, and you want to place your buy orders a little bit higher, okay? I would say to be safe, at least $1,000 higher, maybe even $2,000 to $3,000 higher. Just stagger orders in that range so that you're not completely missing out. So what did Bitcoin do? Bitcoin went and filled that exact gap. Okay, you can go back to like all stocks, and when you see a crazy run up in the price over the history, eventually that stock will come back and revisit that price and fill that gap. So Bitcoin is currently sitting at $85,000. This is what I'm currently looking at. So we have a few things going on here. This right here is a trend line that I have drawn. We have 1, 2, almost 3. You could say 4, 5 touch points, right? It's quite a valid trend line. It's won the daily chart, and it has now come to that level 5 times. So what we're looking for is a break and hold above this current trend line. But there's something else that we should be paying attention to, which are these moving averages, okay? You can see that there's 2 moving averages right over here. So what we're looking for is a few things. We're looking for a green candle to close above the trend line. And in this case, I would look for confirmation. I would probably also want to see it close above those moving averages. And so you can also look at this at the 4-hour time frame. So for example, I was watching this yesterday, and sometimes you can get some early confirmation on the 4-hour time frame. So this is what I was looking at here. Like, this candle right here would not be convincing to me. So what I like to see is I like to see a green candle break and hold above the trend line. I also want to pay attention to, this is on the 4-hour chart, the preceding 2 candles to see what their price action is like. This right here would not be that convincing to me, and I would definitely wait for the next candle. And as you can see, if you would have waited patiently, it was a good call to not jump in there. Then this right here, this is also a little bit too close for comfort for me. And then the following candle was a red candle. This right here, this break and hold above, was a pretty solid candle, but what I wanted to see was after this candle right here, I wanted to see break above the previous swing high. And so what it did was, you could see that it wasn't until up here on this red candle, which really wasn't that convincing. Then we saw a little bit more bearish action. What we're currently sitting on is a 4-hour candle. So what I'm currently seeing on this 4-hour is I'm paying attention to it, but it's not holding nearly as weight as the daily chart. So that's what I am paying attention to. As you can see, we have not seen yet, it's potentially going to happen today, is a green candle break above and close above the trend line. But what I would also want to see is it break and close above these moving averages as well. So what we're kind of seeing here on the daily chart is Bitcoin failed to make a higher high. And so that's something that I'm kind of paying close attention to as well. But this is the thing, to kind of like put everything into perspective of what I'm currently saying for my current situation is that I have basically deployed about 85% of the funds that I set aside after I sold Bitcoin at $98,000. I already deployed 85% of that US dollars back into Bitcoin, okay? I bought in the low 80s, and I also bought a bit in the $75,000 range. So for me, everything is playing out perfectly how I was anticipating it to happen. I would love to see another swing low to happen on Bitcoin and retest once again the $73,000, $74,000 range. I would love that to have the opportunity to buy there as well. I'm also anticipating we could easily see, buying at the $80,000 range is also a great buy. I think it would be great to have buy orders set there as well. This is the thing, is that I think we're in a, buying from even where we are now, 85,000 down to like the $75,000 range, that's a great opportunity in my opinion. I am not willing to say whether we have entered a bear market yet. For me, I don't personally have enough information to make that decision. If we start breaking below 74,000 and spending a lot of time in that range, then it would be starting to feel a lot more like a bear market to me, but I'm not really willing to say that yet. What I can also say is that once Bitcoin, once I started selling around the $100,000 range, I was anticipating this pullback to the $74,000 range, but I wasn't anticipating it to take this long. I was anticipating more of, a pullback that lasted a couple of weeks, 2 to 4 weeks even, and then for Bitcoin to continue upwards. I didn't really anticipate this slow bleed down. I thought it was going to be more of like, not a flash crash, but definitely just had to happen over a much shorter period of time. Because as you saw here, it was in November that I started selling, and then Bitcoin ran up to 107, it pulled back, went up to 107 again, and then the second time it went up to 107 was in January of this year, and now we're already in mid-April, so that has just been a slow bleed. But for me, I'm really enjoying trading trend lines. I'm paying very close attention here for a break and hold above, but I'm also really paying attention to those moving averages. So if you've been watching my videos for a really long time, there's been a concept that I have been talking about for quite a long time, and I don't really pay attention to it as much, but it is this right here. And I've been also saying for this trade would have played out absolutely perfectly. This is the 7-day chart here on the right side, and anytime the green crosses below the red, it's time to get out. So I would have put you getting out at Bitcoin around $73,000, $74,000. And then anytime the green crosses above the red, it's time to get back in. So I'm actually going to be paying very close attention to that. If you trade this 7-day chart and these moving averages crossing over, you are not catching the top, you're not catching the bottom, but you're catching a nice chunk of profitability, excuse me. So let's go ahead and head back here. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at the hourly here on Bitcoin. So what I wanna see is Bitcoin's basically already struggled twice to get past 80, that's $86,000 there. I think if we are able to get above 86, then that puts us in a nice position to get up to a little over $91,500. So I would be keeping an eye there as a nice play. So if I, with the current cash on the sidelines I have now, I would be happy to get in at about like 86 and a half, 87, ride that up to about 91 and a half, and then maybe sell off again and then buy the pullback as well. Sell off and then buy back on the pullback. So that is what I am seeing there. To be honest with you, like, I'm not paying attention to altcoins. I get asked about altcoins all the time. I could give two shits about altcoins. They underperform Bitcoin time and time again. Just to give you an example, I had someone that was like, oh, hey, I made this investment. Like, what do you think about it? And I'm like, okay, well, this person has invested in a bunch of altcoins for you. And if you would have just bought in Bitcoin at the same time you bought these altcoins, you would be in a much better position. Your account has gone from 100,000 down to 24,000, and in the next 2 weeks, this was like a month ago, in the next 2 weeks it's going to be in half. And I was definitely right about that. So for me, I could give two shits about altcoins. I think that they're going to lose value. Most people are not smart enough to trade them properly and for them to be profitable. Yeah, sure. Do we have these run-ups in altcoins that are sometimes 30, 40% in a day or even more than that, like the Trump coin? Yes, absolutely. But like 95% of people, maybe even higher, do not have what it takes to be able to trade altcoins. And for example, like, the guy that I was talking to on the phone about his decision to invest in these altcoins, it was just like, life-changing. He kept on using the word life-changing, and that was like the biggest red flag that I could possibly ever hear. And so, it's just like people end up becoming married to these coins. It's the writing's on the wall to get the F out of your positions, but people are just so married to the altcoins, and they think they're going to make them like ultra rich, but it's just not really what it used to be. If we're talking like 2015, where you could buy anything and it would go up hundreds of percentages in no time because it was these little tiny market caps, it's not really the same situation anymore. Most people, I'm telling you, are not capable of trading the alts. But I personally haven't looked at Ethereum because for me, I'm just focused on Bitcoin. I do actually hold like a decent Ethereum holding actually, so I should pay a little bit more attention to it. But is Ethereum looking dead as ever? Yeah. So, interesting. So, like you could see here, right? Ethereum came down, and this right here, which was resistance back in January of 18 at about $1,400, then turned over as support. Man, Ethereum chart looking rough. The only thing is that sometimes Ethereum kind of leads the way. Oof, Ethereum is looking so much weaker compared to Bitcoin. God. A couple months ago, I kind of had this weird feeling that I needed to sell off all my Ethereum and then just buy Bitcoin instead. And I really should have done that because, man, Ethereum is not really even used much. I think it's kind of a dying project. Chart looks like trash. Bitcoin chart looks much, much better. So, like, you might be watching this and being like, what are you talking about when it comes to altcoins losing value against Bitcoin? So this right here is a chart of Ethereum losing value against Bitcoin. Need I say more? Hope you enjoyed this video. That's all that I have for you today. As always, go out there and create a portfolio that you love.